Okay, we are alive and well. Welcome to our first broadcast. I am Benyamin Cohen, joined by my dad about 6,000 miles away in Israel. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Good to see you, even if it's virtual. So we wanted to, anyone who follows my dad knows that he is the author of a whole series of books called Kosher Movies, and you can find out more at koshermovies.com. And each week he writes a column about a different movie and life lessons he learned from it. And we figured it would be fun leading up to the Academy Awards next month to each week hop online here and have a conversation about a different Oscar-nominated movie. And today we're going to be talking about Top Gun Maverick. Before we get started, I just want to say this is kind of like reminds me when I was a kid growing up and you would take us to the movies. One of the caveats that that we would go to the movies was we would sit in the parking lot afterwards and discuss the movie. It wasn't just the movie for the movie's sake, but you wanted us to think about the movie and what we liked, what we didn't like, what we learned. Do you remember that?
Yes, I asked you to rate the movies from 1 to 10.
Yeah, those were the days. I remember seeing Karate Kid and in the parking lot trying to do the.
And then tell me why you gave a particular rating. I wanted to understand how you were thinking about the films.
Right. To make it a worthwhile endeavor.
Yes.
So yeah, we're going to kick things off. Like I said, the Oscars are next month. We want to talk about some Oscar-nominated movies and what we thought about them and what life lessons maybe we learned from them. So we're going to kick things off today with Top Gun Maverick. And for those of you who have not seen the movie, just the quick elevator pitch is Tom Cruise is a fighter pilot for the Navy. And he's kind of roped in for one last mission. And, he has a little bit of a checkered history. Of anyone who saw the 1986 Top Gun knows that his co-pilot died in that movie, and he's always felt regret and guilt for that. And he's kind of roped back in, not necessarily to fly, but to teach a new class of fighter pilots. And included in that new cast of pilots is the son of his old friend who died. And so there's, obviously some relationship, stuff that goes on between the two of them. Did I do a good job of summarizing that?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you gave a key plot point.
What's that?
Well, the relationship between, is the Maverick just a film about something, about a life lesson, or is it about a particular person who's going through a crisis of relationships when he sees that one of the pilots that he's working with is the son of the pilot who died under his watch.
Right.
So it's not simple there.
Right.
I saw the film really, in a different. Well, put it this way: I haven't heard from you yet how you view the whole entire film, but I saw it in a sense as an object lesson about retirement, the whole issue of retirement.
Yeah.
Because, Captain Pete Maverick, I think his name is Mitchell, has a difficult time with simply realizing that his best years are behind him. I remember, in my own life, I made Aliyah to Israel in 2010. Because even though I realized I may have been at the top of my game in terms of what I was doing, I was a school principal and a rabbi of a synagogue, or in my early career, I realized that the world saw me differently. I was part of an illustrious past, but I wasn't an educational leader for the future because simply I was old, in terms of, nobody's hiring a 60 or 70-year-old person to run a school. They're looking for younger people.
Unless you're a politician. We do elect politicians who are in their 70s.
That's true, right? It was clear to me that financially my golden years of earning a high salary were behind me. So I had to reinvent myself. And that, in a sense, is what Pete Maverick does over the course of this film. He finds a way to reinvent himself.
Yeah. So
You know,
you
in my
connected with that.
Oh yeah. Because I asked myself, what am I going to do now that I can't get a regular job?
Mhm.
So I have to learn more Torah. I have to do more mitzvot. I have to write more and share my expertise with others through the written word, through the media. That's why I'm writing a lot of books, because it helps me feel relevant and feel that I'm doing something valuable. We even had a TV program on the Jewish Broadcasting Network a few years ago that was sort of a Siskel and Ebert type cable TV program with my friend who's a producer and director, Steve Posen. And we were reviewing films from a Torah perspective, not Jewish films, not Israeli films. We're
Right.
reviewing films that simply, from my
Not
perspective,
Holocaust films.
had a kosher message. What was a kosher message? It's not glatt kosher at all, because films today are a different ballgame here. But films that had something meaningful to say about the human condition that can give us some life lesson that's worthwhile pondering. The truth is, we can't do everything in life, and movies are really great because they give you an opportunity to reflect on life. And in a sense, a little side benefit is there's no lashon hara, there's no bad conversation, because everything you talk about is imaginary. They don't really
Right. Right.
exist.
Right. Well, unless
So
it's a biopic about a true story.
you're right, but usually, there's no such thing as a true biopic. They're all, creative, and there's even Elvis is which is very popular. I grew up in the time of Elvis, and I enjoyed it, but the bio is not exactly Elvis, because it's doctored to represent an artistic vision of Elvis, which in the world of literature and the world of movies is okay. They're not aiming, it's not a doctoral dissertation, so you don't have that kind of accuracy that is required. So in Top Gun, Pete Maverick doesn't want to retire. He even wants to avoid promotions at
Yeah.
anything that's going to place him in a position of authority. He doesn't want to be in the office. He wants to be in the air, and that's how he wants to serve his country. Not behind a desk, not pushing pencils, but flying planes.
Mhm. What was interesting to me was that, I mean, it was at its essence, at its core, it was a redemption story,
Oh yeah,
because he, for the last, what is it, 30 years, or whatever
yes,
it's been since 1986, 30, he hit 35 years. He's had this guilt on his shoulders that he felt responsible for the death of his co-pilot in the first movie, and this, he's kind of reluctant when he meets his new recruits and he realizes one of them is the son. He doesn't want to bring the son up in the air, and he doesn't want to bring the son on the mission because he doesn't want to have a second death from that family on his hands.
yeah.
Um,
It's
and
interesting.
so, yeah,
Now I saw this film when the Top Gun originally in the 80s when I saw it, and I forgot most of it. So for me, seeing Top Gun Maverick was a new experience. I forgot totally about the death of his co-pilot. So I
right,
was trying to, when it was revealed in the course of the film that his
Rooster,
Rooster was the
yeah,
son of his co-pilot, that was like an aha moment. Wow, I didn't even know that.
yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
didn't
here's
connect.
a little secret. I don't think I ever saw the original Top Gun. So, but what did you think? I mean, that's an interesting question in life. When you
Yeah,
are given a second chance at
yeah,
something, which is what happens to Tom Cruise's character,
yeah,
and do you approach with caution? Like he was cautious. I don't want to bring this kid up in the air, but eventually he changes his mind.
yeah.
Is that how you would approach a situation? Like if there was a similar situation in your life where you encountered the same problem you had 30 years ago, how would you approach it the same or differently?
Well, I definitely would approach the problem differently,
Hmm.
because I think over 30 years I have acquired some more wisdom in whatever I do. So it's not flawless, it's not perfect, but I think over the years, almost everybody acquires wisdom in life. And that to me can be exciting if you have an opportunity to change, to do
Right.
something different in the same circumstance. Maverick is elated when he's chosen to train pilots in the select Top Gun elite pilot program for a special mission. He thinks originally that he's going to be the leader of the mission
Right.
because their job is to bomb a foreign underground uranium enrichment plant, which is heavily fortified and in a secluded location. The planes are going to have to fly below radar coverage through a winding canyon, which makes this film, a visual feast when you watch how the planes operate. So, but only once they assemble as a team, of pilots, the relationship issues come to the fore, and because it takes time for Maverick to mold them into a cohesive, an effective unit, and that's where the rooster problem comes in. That's what I discovered, at least for my own self, as I watched the film, that there's a heavy backstory here. Mm-hmm. So that to me, was a revelation as I watched the second movie.
Yeah, and it's also, I'll give a little spoiler here, is that at the end of the day, the son ends up saving Tom Cruise's character.
It's a big spoiler.
Well, in a certain sense, we were just talking about, having a second chance, a do-over, to do something again and see if you've learned from your previous mistakes. It reminds me a little bit, a totally different genre of movies, Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray's character is given the chance over and over and over again to repeat the same day until he learns his lessons and goes through that day to the best of his ability. So totally different genre. And perhaps a conversation.
You can't mention Groundhog Day and Top Gun Maverick in the same conversation, although we have done it here. It's interesting that the Torah itself reminds us on many occasions that life experience matters. There's a Torah statement that when you see the elderly person, even if he's not a scholar, we stand up. Why? Our sages tell us because life itself is a teacher. When a person goes through the agonies and ecstasies of life, and as Maverick does, also all elderly people emerge wiser. We become more thoughtful human beings, and we become worthy of teaching others by example. So that's a very, I think, a unique and positive way towards personal redemption, because life enables you to function differently because you simply look at life differently. I mean, I notice as I get older, I see the same things, but I respond much differently than I did years ago because I'm older.
Right.
I was as a principal of the school, when I first started out, I remember I wanted conformity. I wanted everybody to follow the rules. But the longer I became principal, I realized that's not important. What's important is I'm shaping the future of the Jewish people. And I have to be concerned. I'm not teaching material. I'm teaching real people, students. That makes a big difference in outcomes in terms of how you approach the same problem, but look at it totally differently.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't want to go too long here. Do you have anything else to add about Top Gun before we wrap up?
I think it's in its own terms. It's not the greatest movie, but it is a great movie. I mean, it's a film. If you define films, in the kosher way, Top Gun comes close to being a completely kosher film. It's a good film. There's no sex, there's nudity, but there's a good story here. And every film you see has, profanity. You can't get out of that in today's cinema world. Generally, I tell people who ask me, should I go see a movie when they I said, listen, movies today are basically corrupting. They're very bad. But I have an old habit. My mother took me to movies when I was a little kid. I always enjoyed movies, and I couldn't shake the habit. So at least I felt I might provide a service to other people who are hooked on movies, but who want to find something worthwhile and meaningful to see. And that's really what I would like to do in my Kosher Movies books and on my columns that I submit to certain newspapers. I think that's a worthwhile thing to do, and it has made me feel more relevant in this contemporary world in which I live.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good way to end. So as I mentioned at the top of the video, we're going to try to do this leading up to the Academy Awards each week, talking about a different Oscar-nominated movie. What do you want to talk about next week? You want to maybe do Elvis?
Yeah, Elvis is good. I'm a big fan of Elvis. As a matter of fact, in Israel, they have it's a rest stop on a highway, and it's called Elvis. And somebody gave me a postcard with a picture of Elvis wearing a tallis and tefillin, saying, "I saw Elvis Aaron Presley at the Wailing Wall." And it's one of my favorite postcards.
Okay, so I need to watch it. So between now and next week, I'll watch Elvis,
Yeah.
and we can talk about that.
It's a good film. I like it. Yeah.
Okay,
There's
I know
lots
you
to
like
talk
me.
about.
I know you like music picks, so
Yeah.
so definitely we'll talk about that. I look forward to talking about that next week. For those who don't know, my dad has written how many Kosher Movies books have you written?
7, and I have 2 on about to be published.
Ooh, sneak peek. 2 are about to go. So if you go to Amazon and type in Kosher Movies, you should be able to find all 7 of the books that are published. So if you like today's conversation and you want to hear my dad's take on movies from the last 50 years up to the present day, check those out. That's Amazon.com, and just type in Kosher Movies. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I'm glad we could connect face to face, so to speak.
Yeah, it's fun just to talk to you.
Right. What else do you want to talk about?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. We'll catch up later. Take care.